Welcome back, speed gamers of the world. My name is Uday Monistic, and I'm joined here on the comms by Link Orange, who will be here in just a moment. You are tuned in to Speed Gaming for yet another Link to the Past, no major glitches, any percent, no save and quit. We like to call it just NMG race. We have two races for you today. On the top half of your screen, we have Mysticum, and his opponent is going to be Gem. And on the bottom half of the screen, you have BambooShadow against SuperPlayer02. Looks like we do have Link Orange with us, but here in the early on in the escape, we don't have a whole lot to talk about. It's a very straightforward part of the game, so just want to briefly introduce these runners. Something I noticed when looking at all the profiles is that every single one of our runners here today is from Europe.
Hello, I joined the commentary channel. Sorry for being late.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, and hello everyone.
Well, just to touch on these runners a little bit, I know that, Link, you're from France yourself. We do have a French runner in this race, SuperPlayer02, in the bottom right corner. Apparently, according to his bio, he's been running speed games in general since 2015, but he's had this category since late last year. You also find him running Master Sword. He is also proud of his Super Mario Bros. 3 any% and Super Mario 64. His opponent, is German, who is BambooShadow. He's been running games since August 2016, NMG for about the same amount of time, about 1 year, and you can usually see him running Rando. Well known for Link's Awakening DX and has a world record in Oracle of Seasons. We do also have one other German in the race. His name is Gem, and top right corner. Been run since August. Mostly does rando in all dungeons, but you can also find him playing a variety of Metroid games, including Fusion, Zero Mission, Super Metroid, of course, and Metroid 2. And Mysticum in the top left is our one Swiss runner. Been running for a couple of years, but about a year or so in NMG. Was once third in any% save and quit, and also runs Super Mario World.
Yeah, I also think PB of 3 of them is quite close. Like.
Well, it looked like our runners took a couple different strategies for fighting the ball and chain guard. Some opted to throw pots at the ball and chain guard. But exactly what you're saying, Link, it looks like a lot of these PBs are relatively close. Gem and BambooShadow both have sub 130s. And SuperPlayer and Mysticum are right around 145 to 150.
Yeah, escape is a really tough segment if you want to get even sub 6 is quite hard to get at the beginning. I don't know if you explain things like pumping or because I arrived a bit late.
No, we haven't touched on that yet.
Yeah, maybe we will not explain pumping because I think people already know by now what pumping is, but it's not only it's not the only strategy you use in escape. You want to handle with cards and RNG, and what we're gonna see about rats and snakes RNGs in the sewer part. Also, movement is pretty important, and ball and chain soldier, just ball and chain soldier can make lose a lot of time if you don't get the right pixel if you're going for the air slashes. I don't know. I couldn't see who went for the edge slashes or 1 pot or 2 pot strat, but yeah, definitely 2 pot strat is not losing so much time compared to the edge slashes, and it's way safer.
Yeah, not only that, but you have an opportunity to recover some of the health you might have lost on your way to those guards. Altogether, though, it looks like everybody been through the snake room so far has been doing all right with it. But since we were talking about pumping before, through water is probably the biggest, most important instance of it. But like Link Orange said, it's maybe 10 seconds you save over the course of the run if you do it perfect. So it's not too important there. One thing though that might be relevant is how these how these key rats spawn. A lot of our runners here are doing pretty well with it.
Yeah, exactly. The best Kirat RNG can save, I think it's a bit less than 1 second over the worst RNG, where he goes on the top left of the map of the screen of the room, and if he rushes into you on the far right, you get the best RNG.
Well, nothing too fancy going on with the escape. We had all of our runners a little bit over 6 minutes, so they're a little bit further behind than they want to be.
So yeah, everyone went for the Sank Heart, which is the best safety in the run and also less the less costly safety. You lose only 3 seconds to this safety, about 3 seconds, and yeah, you get a safety heart for the rest of the round. So pretty nice to get it. Only a few runners don't go for it.
I've seen Ben Teasy in this tournament do it. I think, one reason that some people out there might not want to pick it up, if nothing else, is just to force themselves to be better at the game. Because, yeah, if you lose your runs because of not taking it.
Yeah, but yeah. Also, yeah, when people we often advise to beginners that they should take this anchor because when you don't take it, you don't finish runs more often than if you take it. So yeah.
Yeah, there are very few people in the world where that 3 seconds really matters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even like people in having a 125 still get it. But yeah, maybe when when you begin to get times like 124, maybe 10 runners in the world got it in their lives. Maybe you begin to want to save time here, those 3 seconds.
A common joke you might see runners make is, if they're finishing a boss fight with like one heart left, they'll say shoutouts to Sankheart because
Yeah.
it saved their life there.
Exactly.
Well, we have a Stalfos room here on Mysticum screen that we can explain. So normally 4 Stalfos will spawn in this room depending on where Link is when you cross over that trigger. We can actually manipulate the game based on which path we take through the room and by throwing a couple pots to instantly kill 2 of them before they spawn and to force the other 2 to spawn in places where they're invalid, one underneath a pot and one outside the room.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw also Mysticum throwing the pot, the first pot up instead of right. It's a common mistake. Everyone does this. And there is a backup strat for this because the skeleton of the right appears, and then what you need to do is to take the pot on the middle of the room and then throw it on the right, and then you can kill him quite fast. And yeah, because when you awake a skeleton you didn't want to awake, they have the tendency of running away, and this is annoying.
We also get to see a nice exploit of invincibility frames on 2 of our players' screen right now to get to the big key. There's a pot or a switch underneath the pot underneath the anti-fairies. We use invincibility frames to pick up the pot and have them expire when we're standing on the switch. That allows us to activate the big key without killing everything in the room.
Yeah, and we also saw BambooShadow getting the red rupee, so I think he will go for the rupee tree root strat, which we will talk in a few moments. I think not every runner will go for this strat. And yeah, here is the Zelda gamer room, named after a runner who is called Zelda gamer, famous for anger in this room. The RNG there on this room can be pretty hard to handle. The skeleton can walk in a direction you cannot get them with the arrows, and you can also waste a lot of arrows there. So yeah, pretty dangerous room.
And then, of course, the easiest boss fight in the game. Our racers are going to line up in a couple of different spots, mostly to the left of the first Armos. And the idea is you want to pump a couple shots through before the Armos start cycling through the room. If we do this right and leave one shot left on the first one that we hit, we'll be able to knock out the last two without going through the enraged phase at all. I believe SuperPlayer was the only one who had any kind of trouble with it, but it's not that big of a deal. Running out of arrows, though, will make this a lot slower.
Yeah, and more dangerous too. Actually, there was a dumb strat done in a long time ago in a puzzle race, which was kill the Armos boss with only the boomerang. It's possible, actually. Throwing the boomerang at them doesn't only stun them, but it also inflicts damage. But the damage it inflicts is so little that the fights can last. I don't remember how it lasted, but yeah, it was at least 5 minutes or something like that.
Certainly very slow, certainly very boring.
Yeah. But very fun to see, I guess.
We also get to see a spin speed out of Mysticum here on the top left. So what we're doing here is, now that we have the boots, the run can start, of course. But more importantly, when we release a spin slash or a sword spin and then hit the dash button immediately on the next frame, the game gets kind of confused with the animations and gives Link running speed while he's in his walking animation. Now we don't have to charge up a bunch of dashes, so it only lasts on the screen you're on or until you dash again. Very handy to get through a couple of these screens a lot faster. I think you were onto something about these Sahasla rupees. It looks like SuperPlayer is going to pick those up. So, and that's probably because, like you mentioned before, we found that red rupee, so there's a fair amount of rupees leaving that dungeon.
Yeah, so actually you have a lot of, not a lot, but yeah, you have a few differences even in the Sahasra rupee route. You saw SuperPlayer take the 3 extra bombs in the chest. Actually, those bombs it's not mandatory to take them if you go for the rupees, but you can use a safer strat in a Landmolas fight, which is coming at the end of the Desert Palace, and you are guaranteed, if you place your bombs while you're at the beginning of the fight, to inflict more damage to them and to make the fight a little bit shorter.
Yep, our runners would typically use 2 bombs in that fight when they're doing that bomb mola strats. However, that extra bomb that they have can probably be put to good use in case they need to do, like, say, more than one attempt at a bomb jump later on in the run.
Yeah.
I personally use it to get a free coffee break. Well, we couldn't ask for a better time to have these boots. Here in Desert Palace, not a whole lot we gotta do. We gotta bonk a key off a torch, go find the big key, come all the way back across the dungeon for the power glove that you see on BambooShadow screen. With that lift upgrade, we can make it to the back half and fight on this boss.
Yeah, that's one of those dungeons. Like you have lots of rooms, but only a few of them are really useful. And of course, since it's a speedrun and not a 100% map completion speedrun, it actually doesn't exist in A Link to the Past yet. You go to a few rooms in the palace. Most well impressive thing for me is the Skullwoods dungeon, where you really see, I think, 40% only of the dungeon, the whole dungeon.
Yeah, we're gonna breeze through there. Blink and you might miss it. We also get a couple more kill rooms here in the Desert Palace, so our runners have to be very diligent about how they approach these rooms. The RNG can change the patterns of the popos, but they all spawn in the same place. So, for the most part, we'll try to use dash pokes to do as much damage as possible while we're traversing through the room. If we have to stop the slash, it's very slow. Looks like Bamboo's going to be the first one to land Molus.
Yeah, he got the 5 extra arrows before the fight.
Now, with this fight, our runners, if they're not doing the bomb strats, are going to try to get as many arrows in on this first phase as possible. The position that they spawn in is the same on the first phase of every fight, but the direction that they travel and the length of their flight is random for every phase.
Bamboo used an interesting strat here, being on the far right from the left landmollas. Usually you want to be as close at them as possible because on screen you can only have one arrows advancing, and if you shoot another arrows while the previous one is still on screen, you just have the animation of a bow, but not throwing another arrow. So if you're close to them, the arrow go into their heads, and so you can shoot faster.
And that's a really important part of the tech of this game, is that there's no point in mashing that item button. Is exactly as you mentioned. There's only going to be one on screen at any time. So keep that in mind, folks. If you're fighting Lamolus and you're trying to pump a ton of arrows in, stay close. You can't have more than one on the screen at any given time, though.
Also, Namuna's sword hits inflicts half damage as a arrow hit. So you want actually to use the sword to them if they are quite far or in a diagonal position from you.
Yeah, it is very difficult to realign yourself, so it's not the kind of fight that you want to line up your shots with using like a charged sword to strafe. You want to just pretty much move around Link. And then, of course, you got to watch out for the diagonal angles. That's where the rocks go, of course. But everybody so far having a pretty good Lamolus fight. We'll see from SuperPlayer in a moment.
Yeah. Also, walking diagonally sometimes can provoke lag, especially when one of the worm explodes. Because I don't know why, but in this game, when you walk diagonally, it provokes more lag than if you walk cardinally. So it's also something to take into account.
And it seems like that's even more exaggerated when there's more sprites on screen. So if there's those rocks flying around, if the boss is exploding exactly like you mentioned. So you can compound that if you move diagonally through that. You could also use that to help you line yourself up. It will slow down the game a bit, but we don't like to slow down too much.
Yeah, but that actually, I think personally I use this a lot. For instance, in a Argus fight to, I don't know, to have more time to align myself with him.
Not only that, but Cold Stare is another great example of when one of the boxes is exploding. Mysticum having a little bit of difficulty with the whirlpool. When Link swims, the momentum is transferred, so you can actually throw yourself into that whirlpool several times in a row if you're not careful.
Bamboo and Jim are pretty close to each other right now.
Yeah, they have been on the same screen for a while. Well, so far it seems like 3 out of our 4 runners have all done fake flippers. Do you think SuperPlayer is going to do the same thing?
Yeah, with the fake flippers glitch, you can actually soft lock the game. If you get hit during being in the water in the second map, you can actually soft lock the game, but for the sake of the tournament, there is a special rule for this, which allows a save and quit, because by save and quitting, you can prevent this soft lock. And
of course, if you make the mistake of pressing any other button, though, besides select, you may just ruin it worse.
Looks like he got it. Yeah, pretty clean fake flippers for SuperPlayer. SuperPlayer who got actually a soft lock in I think it was his first tournament race, but not in the fake flippers. It's rare soft lock. He got in total rock and laser skip. Because in this game, when you fall into a pit and get hit the frame, I don't know, you are being warped into the entrance, for instance, of the room. You provoke a weird glitch. Well, actually, it's not that weird, but if you die at the same frame you're warped to the entrance of the room, it can provoke a glitch, and it's what happened to SuperPlayer. He just soft locked the game and couldn't. I think it was on 1 hour and 40 minutes, so he couldn't even start. He only had to forfeit the race.
Yeah, that's the first I've ever heard of that soft lock. And when you said rare, I mean, that definitely sounds like it.
Yeah, actually, this strat is used in, I think it's the reverse boss order category, where you can use this strat to, I don't remember why, but I know they use this strat in this category, in the Palace of Darkness, because the glitch is different if you fall into a pit, like in Tower of Hera, which warps you in another floor of the dungeon. And the glitch is also different if you fall into a pit, which throws you back at the entrance of the room it is.
You know, I would ask you how this whole stuff, or all this stuff works, but I feel like the simplest and most straightforward answer is game's weird, man.
Exactly.
Well, we got really clean fights for Moldorm out of Gem and BambooShadow. So far, Mysticum and SuperPlayer making their climb up the Tower of Hera. Moldorm, very easy fight, but can also be a very frustrating fight, as you can fall off the ledge, and doing so on the outsides will drop you 1 floor. On the inside of the hole will drop you 2 floors. In the meantime, BambooShadow is doing that tree pole route we were talking about.
Yeah. He already has a lot of rupees, actually. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so he didn't even bother picking up most of those blue rubies. It makes a lot of sense, though. So just to kind of briefly touch on what we're talking about here, the tree pulls, there's certain trees in the game that you can pull, and they will give you rupees based on how many enemies you've killed in a row, and how much damage you've taken. So if it's, you haven't killed at least 4 enemies, you'll get green rupees. If you kill 4 and take damage, you get blue rupees. And if you pull 4 with no damage taken, you get red rupees. So our runners are going to try and kill 4 more after that first pull, and getting the red rupees there will get them to 120 for Palace of Darkness.
And looks like Mysticum had a bit of trouble with the bumper skip right there. And being 1 hurt at this floor of Tower of Hera can be pretty scary, because Moldorm, as you said, is a pretty an easy fight, but it's so easy to take a hit. So yeah, hopefully Mysticum got the safety switch in Hera, which allowed him to take hearts under pegs.
Yeah, hitting that switch to have the safety hearts, not something you necessarily do in an RTA run when you're not worried about, being in a race, but in a tournament setting, absolutely the smartest thing you can do. Ooh, SuperPlayer accidentally picked up the bomb instead of dashing. It's gonna fall all the way to the first floor.
Yeah. Yeah, provokes a fall from 2 floors. It's really painful to fail it.
And it looked like he opted not to use the mirror so he wouldn't have to fight the beetles again. Overall, a time save, although it doesn't look like it at first.
And the BambooShadow and Gem both entering into Aghanim's tower. This dungeon is quite short. It's about 2 minutes, I guess. But really, in every room you have lots of strats depending on cards RNGs, and even if it's one of the shortest dungeons in the game, it's one of the longest to learn because lots of RNGs and many things which can go wrong and make you lose a bunch of time.
BambooShadow giving us a good example of one. If you alert those guards in that dark room, they obstruct your path much worse. So the goal here is to avoid clinking on things, to not bonk at all, to avoid alerting them in any way whatsoever, because you'll get through a lot smoother.
Yeah, exactly, and especially if you have sword beams in those rooms, guards can hear them, and oh, he fell from. It happens, and the guards can hear the sword beams in rushing to you. And also, an interesting characteristic of those guards is when they see you, they react, and their time reaction can vary between 0 and I think 0 and 31 or 32 frames, and you cannot. It's completely random, and you cannot manipulate. So even with different position or direction RNGs, you have also this time reaction who adds a bit more of RNG.
Well, speaking of RNG differences, the Circle of Pots room that Gem and BambooShadow were just going through, there's 2 red guards in there, and one of them can either walk left or down, and it directly impacts which way that you take that room through. BambooShadow had bad RNG, but reacted brilliantly, getting 2 pots right past the one that walked left, and then threw a boomerang before it was even dead. Gem struggled with the same room, so that's like a good 5-10 seconds that you can see being a difference based on how much you practice these RNGs.
Yeah, Circle of Pots is definitely one of the hardest rooms to optimize in the entire round. And now, Bamboo already began the Aghanim's fight, which is pretty RNG because Aghanim's works in phases, and in every phase he has 6 cycles. On the first cycle of one phase, it will always be an energy ball, which you can throw back to him, and the 4 next attacks are 50% chance being blue balls or energy balls, and you cannot get blue balls back to him. And then the last attack from a phase is a lightning attack. Of course, you cannot throw the lightning attack back to him too. So this is generally where people, if to one of them, if Aghanim is nice or not, save or lose time, a lot of time compared to each other.
Well, I think I lost count there, but I'm pretty sure Bamboo had 2, maybe 3. Gems had at least 1 at this point.
2 or 3 is quite good actually. I calculated the percentage of getting 3 or less blue balls, and you have approximately 66% chance getting 3 blue balls or less. So if you get 4 or more, you are not very lucky.
And of course, if you get 15, your name's Scrivo.
Twice, especially.
Yeah, that's like a 1 in 32,000 chance, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
We also noticed on Mysticum screen, doing a spin/kill the first two blue guards in Aghanim's tower. A lot of our runners avoided doing that, and the reason why is because he actually got a fairy drop there. That's part of a prize pack that we can exploit way later in the run, hopefully in Turtle Rock right before the Chain Chomps rooms. But so dashing through enemies doesn't increment that prize pack counter at all. So using that tactically allows us to hopefully preserve it for when we really need it the most. Well, two of our runners are out of the Aghanim fight, a little bit over 31 minutes. So for the paces that particularly BambooShadow and Gem have, they're a little bit behind right now. Typically, they would have been leaving probably about 2 minutes ago, or maybe a minute and a half ago from Aghanim. Meanwhile, Mysticum and SuperPlayer are both making their approaches to Aghanim as well, so they're not too far ahead. They're not too far behind in their respective races.
Yeah, Gem approaching Kiki, which is a little monkey, quite greedy monkey. He needs 10 rupees to follow you, and then 100 extra rupees to open the dungeon for you. The thing is, if you get hit between during the time Kiki is following you, you lose Kiki, and you need 10 extra rupees to get him back. So if you have between 110 rupees and 120 rupees, it can be annoying because you have to farm rupees. And a way of farming those rupees is slow, but I cannot think about another way of farming them. If you stun enemies like moblins or hinox with your boomerang and hit them with a sword, kill them actually, they will almost always drop green rupee. And this is a way of farming rupees if you don't have enough at this time.
That's absolutely correct. Every time you stun an enemy, you only get a green rupee. The popos that are outside, or whatever their Dark World equivalent is, those do have a pretty good chance of dropping rupees, but if you're only missing one or two, probably safer to just use the boomerang. We do get our first bomb jump opportunity out of BambooShadow here. Fails it because of the Helmasaur, who trolled him real hard.
Oh yeah. The good point of this troll, if he could get an extra bomb in the second pot. Sometimes you see people getting both pots in one go, but it's a bit more dangerous because you have less time to execute the hammer jump. But yeah, so right now, since he took this bomb right there, he will not need a bomb under a pot in Thieves Town a bit later.
Both of our runners making good use of the pause buffer to line themselves up on the correct pixel. One of the reasons why something, say, like pumping is important is because it teaches us about Link's movement. When Link moves left or up, in the first frame of his movement, he's going to move 2 pixels. If he's moving right or down, it's going to be 1 pixel. So if you use the pause buffers intelligently, you can actually line them up perfect every time. So far, though, interesting enough, it looks like every runner in this race had less than 4 or 5 blue balls, so pretty good luck overall.
Yeah, pretty nice. Also, during hammer jump, you can, instead of using a pause buffer, you can try to go for the sword buffers. Actually, like Yoda said, the first frame of your movement advances of 1 or 2 pixels depending on your direction. And if you use the sword at the same frame as a direction, up or down in this case, you can advance from exactly 1 or 2 pixels. But doing a sword buffer loses 13 frames, although using a pause buffer makes the game advance like frame advancing. So Using a sword buffers keeps you from using a pulse buffer, and it's way faster, but also way more dangerous.
Well, in the meantime, we have our first attempt on Helm Sorking. We need 17 hammer hits to the shell, or potentially 4 bombs if our runners really wanted to do that. And then effectively 8 slashes at the face of Helmsaur King to finish him off.
Yeah, King Helmazor is a pretty one of the first really scary fights, and this is one of the fights you want to have the Sankhart, because if you got the Sankhart earlier in the round, you have 7 hearts there. Every hit from Helmazor takes 2 hits, 2 hearts, sorry. So you can be hit 3 times. Uh, Although if you didn't get the Sankhart, you can only get hit twice, and yeah, that's a difficult fight and really easy to get screwed, to get hit. So a nice play from both runners, BambooShadow and Gem, quite close to each other. Pretty close race so far.
Yeah, they both finished their fight with 3 hearts left, so they could have taken one more hit cleanly, but in the Helmsaur Enraged phase, he can do all 3 of his attacks at once. He can move, swing his tail, and do the fireball. So like Orange is saying, it's a very scary fight. Definitely not something you want to do recklessly. Interestingly enough, it looks like Mysticum is the first person to have a divergence at the bomb jump, instead opting to go downstairs. Might possibly pick up these rupees, and if so, may end up skipping one of the huts later on.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting routes, and we didn't see this often in this tournament, so pretty nice to see right now.
Well, we didn't see ruby pickups, but that's not a big deal. It's just kind of like an older strategy. May also elect to try top bomb strats. That's something a little less frequently seen, but I think from picking up that key, yep, we're gonna go through the dark room.
Also, hammer jump, of course, is faster than going this way. But if you don't feel confident, it's better to go this way. The number is if you do 30 or more pulse buffers for hammer jump, it's actually slower than this strat. So you want to do, if you go for hammer jump, you want to do less than those 30 pulse buffers.
And SuperPlayer also opting to go to the back half, so 2 out of 4 on each strat respectively. Wow.
Yeah, very interesting. That's nice to see various strategies there.
Yeah, that is one of the nice things about this tournament. All throughout the No Major Glitches tournament, we've seen different strategies for boss kills, different strategies for skips, dungeon routing, even getting gold sword and silver arrows in various runs, giving us much different dungeon routing. So it'll be interesting to see where our runners will end up later on in this race as their routes potentially diverge more. Just keep up to pace with the leaders of our respective races. They're picking up their flute on their way to Village of Outcasts. We're going to make our way to Thieves Town next, because that'll give us access to the Titan's Mitts, which will give us access to the Tempered Sword. And with that sword upgrade, we're going to get through a lot of these dungeons much quicker than we should be. We do get to see a nice spin speed out of Gem there to get past the fastest guard in Hyrule. We like to call him Usain Bolt, because he really could probably win a 100-meter sprint. But we're a little bit quicker because of our Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitches.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see BambooShadow not going for the apple battle. Actually, there is a tree where if you build this tree, apples can fall from the tree, and one apple restores 1 heart of your life. Also, it's pretty uncommon. Oh, nice fairy drop there. I think he might have gotten hit by the red bird in front of the Palace of Darkness. This little cute red bird actually inflicts 3 hearts of damage. Really hurts, and it's really like surprising the first time you get in the dark world, because the equivalent bird in the light world inflicts only one half of heart of damage.
I mean, hey, there's a reason we call him the Murder Dactyl.
Nice name.
I wish I was the one that came up with it. But in the meantime, we're going to see some boss fights out of Mysticum and SuperPlayer as BambooShadow and Gem both enter the Thieves' Town. Mysticum's in some rough shape right now. With 2 hearts left, really can't afford to take any damage.
Yeah. Oh, and not a very good RNG. Oh,
no.
Yeah. Actually, there are some RNGs where Helmazor can throw 0 fireballs, and that's pretty what you want, but you get this quite rarely.
And then, of course, one thing our runners could potentially do is they could, if they have like the last hammer hit right as the fireball is about to spawn, you actually want to delay just a little bit and let the fireball actually fully spawn, because you can despawn it by destroying that mask.
Yeah, exactly. But Gem getting the God Pixel, but the RNG, the enemy's RNG is not his friend, and he couldn't advance in the Hellway.
I'm sure the audience can imagine why we call it the Hellway. There's just non-stop enemies everywhere in there. But Link Orange was talking about the God Pixel. There's exactly one pixel-perfect X coordinate position right in the center of that conveyor that if you dash, you can go from end to end. Oh no, SuperPlayer.
Taking a death too. Yeah, and especially...
that's rough.
Yeah, taking a death to Helmazor is pretty rough, and yeah, it's only the beginning of the Dark World, and yeah, that's for the morale. It's not good at all, because usually you think of all the Dark World which is coming after this, and yeah, dying in this first boss is really painful.
It's absolutely a very common place for people to die, particularly in the run. It's one reason that some people pick up their powder and their bug net and bottle early when they're newer to the run.
Yeah, I died to Helmazor during my second tourney race, actually, so I understand them.
Yeah, I mean, people at every skill level died Helmazor King. He's just not an easy fight.
Yeah, really hard fight, especially when he throws at you lots of fireballs.
We do get the blind fight out of BambooShadow at the same time. This is a 9-hit fight exactly, because every source of damage does 1 damage to him. He has 3 hits per head. It's scripted, as we like to say, so if you do it the same way every time, you can get extremely predictable fights. Bamboo had a great fight.
Yeah, and I saw him having the sword beams at the beginning of the fight, and having sword beams at blind is a sign of very good dungeon execution, because you didn't get hit by anything, and not getting hit by anything in this dungeon is pretty good.
Yeah, we have the Hellway, we have conveyor belts all over the place. Very dangerous place to be in general.
Yeah.
Even with less hearts to work with, Gem also clears it up very nicely. Now, I didn't see either of them go to pick up powders, so I think that they may have skipped the mushroom, or they were potentially looking at using fake powder later.
Maybe indeed. I don't think Bamboo took the mushroom there. I didn't see the Gem's menu, so I didn't see. I saw mushroom in Mysticum's menu.
Now, typically speaking, most runners of most skill levels will get their powder either right after they do blind, or right before they do blind, Thieves' Town, when they first have access to the flute. Otherwise, the next best place to do it is after Skull Woods, where we're already heading in that direction anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so Mysticum and SuperPlayer finally getting through Helmazor and being able to advance to go to Thieves' Town. Nice to them. It's nice to recover from Helmazor's death. because in that game, when you begin to die at, I don't know, one thing, whether it's a boss or anything else, you can provoke what I call a chain of death, like dying every time several times you want to do this again. Yeah, it's good that they didn't fall into this chain of death.
It's certainly something that tilts you as a runner. It's bad enough, to have that happen when you're just doing a regular run, but on a tournament setting, it just feels worse.
Yeah.
One thing runners really got to be careful about having that happen to them is Thieves Town, because that's even more punishing than any other one. It doesn't take them long to get back to that fight, but Blind, who normally starts in the center of the room in the first fight, will then start in the top right corner, and unless you have sword beams, it's very hard to get through those phases.
We can see in BambooShadow's screen a Mario picture in the house, and previously we were talking about the Rupee Tree route. Another Easter egg of ALTTP is that those pictures of Mario can also drop those 4 rupees.
Oh, so that is basically a tree pole.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day playing this game.
Also, Bamboo entering Skullwoods here in the mummy statue room, one of the worst room in the game, and especially there the mummies were a bit annoying, but he chose to go to pull the statue instead of pushing it. Actually, when you push a statue, you go faster than pulling it. It's just faster. But sometimes you don't have choice depending on the mummy's RNG and need to go on the other side of the statue to pull it.
And not only do you move faster pushing it, but moving in a diagonal direction will actually move it much faster as well.
Exactly.
Which you can't do while you're pulling, of course. Well, when I said earlier, blink and you'll miss it, I mean, I wasn't kidding. BambooShadow there just did a bomb jump to get the fire rod. Otherwise, you'd have to drop through a hole, so this is definitely a lot faster.
Yeah, Gem going for the bomb jump too.
It looks like Mysticum got the powder. I want to say SuperPlayer is probably right on his heels for that one. Now, this is an interesting room that BambooShadow is going through. We like to call this the Gibdo or Mummy Hellway. 4 torches you got to light. You got to get around those Gibdos. Didn't have to kill too many of them, so he did really well through that room.
Yeah, the Mummy Hellway is very difficult. Actually, I practiced that yesterday, and the optimal strat, from what I experienced, I think Bamboo tried this optimal strat. It saves about 20 frames from way safer and easier strats. So you can see the level of optimization sometimes you want to go for.
Well, if you thought that was good, folks, Bamboo just showed us Mothula before we even had any time to explain it.
Yeah, pretty sick fight.
I also noticed that on Gem's screen that one of the doors was already unlocked in the beginning of the dungeon. I think he might have got floor mastered there.
Yeah, Gem with a pretty sick Mummy Hellway too.
Well, so now that we have a couple extra seconds on Mothula, just to kind of explain this fight, Mothula here, we want to avoid the edges of the arena, because when you do damage to Mothula and he collides with a spike, he's immune to the spikes, so he just doesn't take any damage from you. And Gem with an almost perfect Mothula.
Wow.
Holy smokes, I mean, that was like 3... the way he started the fight, so there's conveyors on the floor, and the block in the top, bottom, and left and right, those are spots where you can knock Mothula into, and you'll still do damage. So you can do a poke dash into it right at the beginning of the fight to get 2 hits in, and then just add perfectly timed slashes. I mean, that's... I'm floored.
Yeah, Mothra can be a really hard fight if he decides, like you said, to go on the top corner of the room. You have to chase after him, and all the spikes you begin to move. Actually, Gem had a pretty good fight there. None of the spikes were even uh, beginning to move, so yeah, pretty good fight there. Impressive. While Bamboo is going to take to the Quake Medallion route there, and after getting the flippers from Zora, yeah, this is one of the longest overworld parts of the game because it's in the Ice Palace split, but actually Ice Palace is less than one half of the split.
Yeah, we use a really fancy bomb jump to skip more than half of that dungeon, so that'll be fun to see in just a moment. And the way that we go this, or the reason that we go this route is because we can use the mirror to get right back to the Zora. So rather than coming up to the northeast, section twice, we use the warp that we get at the castle gate after defeating Aghanim to walk just right in this direction. We had a moment to see it in the bamboo screen a moment ago, but Jem's also going to show us once they throw the rock into the catfish's little lake there, they're actually going to bonk against the wall to the right. This sets up something we call a quick warp. Oh, we actually missed that throw. But a quick warp, based on where the camera is panned on the screen, sometimes with a perfect Y-pixel placement, you can actually make the warp animation faster. If you do the quick warp correctly and you line it up, you'll save about half a second, and there's multiple quick warps all over the world.
Well, Mysticum and SuperPlayer being in the going toward the end of the Thiefstone segment, like having the powder there is very useful. As you see, Mysticum has sword beams and plays really nicely to. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, there is rabbit beam in this under this spot, I think.
Yeah, that's a very handy last kind of stop, because trying to get the anti-fairy in the hellway is kind of annoying. It bounces in weird places, and you'll also notice that we had the bug net. Bug net's a really great safety to take early on in learning this game before you've gotten to like 35, 140. No reason not to pick it up if you're going to get powder, and in a bottle at that. But so getting that extra fairy here makes this blind fight incredibly safe. I mean, you can pretty much do damage boost strats through most of it if you wanted to.
Yeah, SuperPlayer going for the same strat with the powder and the rabbit beam under the box.
It looks like Mysticum's the only one who picked up bug net, so if there's another place where, say, both, or if there's a bunch of places where Gem, were to die, let's just say Cold Stare, this would be a really great chance to catch up a little bit of time.
Yeah. Also, we were talking about the hellway in Thiefstone. Here is the hellway in Ice Palace too. A bit shorter, but still hard to do well and to optimize. Depending on when you enter the room, the conveyor can go to the left. Oh, Mysticum died to blind.
However, we do have that fairy thanks to picking that bottle, so we're definitely in good shape there.
I forgot about this fairy, so wow, when killing it right after. Nice timing there. Nice Pengator room for Bamboo.
Also, the bomb jump really coming into effect here, you'll see on BambooShadow screen. As soon as he drops down, now he doesn't have to go around the dungeon to knock this switch down and can push this block immediately. Gem here on the top right is about to attempt the bomb jump now.
He has only one bomb left, so pretty scary.
Wow, that's incredible to get that in one try with just one bomb.
Yeah, pretty sick.
We also got to see both of them do a really nice hammer dash, because you can do an item dash. So we didn't explain item dashes.
Exactly.
Once you have the boots, you can dash and use the item on the same frame. This will allow you to have the effects of the item throughout the entire dash animation. A couple different items have different effects, but when you do a hammer, you can just walk right through things that you would normally be able to hammer, and it's much faster in certain circumstances. With a bomb jump, it's just kind of swag.
And the bamboo finishing coaster fights with the 6 slashes strat. The safest, but yeah, one of the best. And the pretty scary because he went very close to the puffs. When you see the 6 slashes strat, you usually don't see people going that close to the puffs. I guess it saves a little more time.
One thing to note is that we have to use all of our magic in order to destroy the ice shells. So, we also get the poke slash strat out of Gem. That's interesting. But yeah, so those cold stare puffs do 4 hearts of damage to green male Link. So it's and we're expected to have picked up the blue male in this dungeon. So you really can't take very many hugs from those. And without having any magic, unless you do like sword beam strats, it's really hard to make it through that fight. Well, if something goes wrong. If you do it right, then, those 6 slashes are pretty easy.
Looks like SuperPlayer is going for the half magic there.
Yep, so when SuperPlayer goes through the Ice Palace, gonna have a little bit of an easier time with Cold Stare. We did get to see a nice fence dash out of Mysticum, though. Nicely done.
Oh yeah, I didn't see the fence dash, but very nice. Yeah, to get the fence dash, you have to press left and A on the same frame out of the transition, the sprint transition. Kind of hard to get.
But it looks and feels great.
Yeah, exactly. And it saves time too. Not a lot. I don't remember how exactly. It was like 10 frames or maybe 20 frames at best.
Pretty much the amount of time it takes to charge up another dash. Well, 2 of our runners are about to make their way into Skull Woods. Mysticum just finally going towards the big key chest, and SuperPlayer picking up the remaining 300 rupees so that we can get the flippers later. BambooShadow and Gem both making their way into Swamp at the same time.
Also, you could see a really nice shot from Mysticum there, because as we said earlier, the mummy statue room is one of the worst in the game. But if you equip the boomerang and boomerang the mummies, you can stun them and then they will not be a problem anymore.
And stunning is always a good thing to do in this game. Enemies that aren't moving around on screen aren't causing as much lag. So there's a couple of other instances like Armos Knights on the way to Eastern Palace and a couple other fights, overworld enemies that are just much better to boomerang, particularly if you already have it equipped.
And Mysticum also skipping the bomb jump there. Yeah, as we said earlier, the bomb jump, I think it saves, I don't know, between 6 and 12 seconds. No, we didn't say it, but yeah, we say it right now. It saves, yeah, between a nice bonk to pass over the pit. Yeah, definitely saves. It's safer, and yeah, if you go for the bomb jump, you can lose 1 or 2 hearts depending if you fall in the pit right after. But yeah, not going for the bomb jump saves 1 or 2 hearts and loses only 10 seconds on average, I think.
Also, by the looks of it, I think SuperPlayer fell down the wrong hole on the way into Swamp, in the way to Skull Woods, which is a rough loss of time.
Yeah, I saw him in the bumper room. I was not accustomed to see this one.
Looks like he's going to opt to kill the mummies instead of having to deal with them. Perfectly valid strategy there. But gets grabbed. Ouch.
Oh. Yeah, actually, there is a little glitch only in the JP 1.0 version of the game. As we said earlier, there is a glitch where when you fall in the pit, you're still able to get hit by anything, and it also takes the one masters into account because they can grab you even if you're in a falling animation. This was patched in other versions in the game.
Some people call it getting 1.0'd. Ooh, Mysticum's got to be careful here. Ouch. I think he has a fairy, though. He did pick one up in the big key room, I believe, so should be alright to continue the fight, but he needs to start putting some damage on Mothula before he takes another death.
Yeah, like we said earlier, the longer Mothula's fight lasts, the harder it becomes. So you really want to, not only for the sake of the speedrun, you know, but you just want to kill it as fast as possible, because it can really become a hell quickly.
Yeah, the recovery strats are a little more punishing than, you know, most other bosses.
Gem getting the hookshot there. The hookshot is pretty nice item because thanks to it, you can get iframes while you are throwing the chain, like yeah, during the animation of the item, and you will see quite a lot of uses from these iframes a bit later. Bamboo in the Argus fights not going for the zero cycle. That's a nice decision because going for the zero cycle, if you don't get it, you can be screwed. And yeah, we already saw in this tournament people going for the zero cycle, missing it, and then having a 2-cycle Argus instead of a 0. So
yeah, and 1-cycle Argus definitely something that a runner should be satisfied taking. I mean, you know, if you try for the 0-cycle, there's no point. You know, if you aren't getting it reliably in the practice hack, I wouldn't mess around with it.
Yeah, and 0-cycle saves only 6 seconds, about 6 seconds over 1 cycle.
Though it does look incredible when you do see it. I don't.
Yeah.
You know, Gem's not going to try it either. It's pretty risky. It's probably the hardest boss kill strategy in the game, right?
Yeah, for me, yes.
Ouch! Though Gem taking a little bit too much damage there is going to die.
Too bad. Yeah, that's usually Argus is not a dangerous boss, but if you are a super player dying to, I didn't see where, but
that would have been Mothula fight.
Mothula fight. Yeah, Argus is giving 2 hearts of damage and sniped at every fight, and yeah, it's quite punishing if you enter the fight without a lot of hearts. And Swamp Palace, we didn't talk about a lot about Swamp Palace, but it's actually quite a long split, a long dungeon. Not really hard, but you know, you can lose a lot of, well, little by little, lots of hearts actually, like 1 heart there, 2 hearts there, etc. And you can, yeah, your life can be low quite quickly, more than you think.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of places to refill those hearts. I mean, there's a chance to double heals in the room that Gem's about to pass in a moment. Also going to note that SuperPlayer did die in the Gibdo Hellway again, so falling a little further behind. Bamboo would have to have a couple deaths at this point for a SuperPlayer to get back into this. Looking at this, though, it looks like Bamboo has had a pretty good run so far, despite being a couple minutes behind, I would say, going into Aghanim. is doing pretty well overall at about an hour and a 5, getting basically both of the items he's going to need for later.
Yeah, exactly. He has 2 bombs there, so he's good in bombs. Actually, in this game, you often count your arrows and your bombs because there is a routing of those. You want to be 2 bombs at the end of the Swamp Palace. So yeah, Gem is at 3 bombs, so one extra bomb actually, but that's fine. And on arrows, there you want to have well, as much as possible arrows, but you need only theoretically only 8 to finish Misery Mario dungeon efficiently.
Well, we do have our first opportunity for a bird toss. Is Bamboo going to live up to the audience hype? Absolutely not. Well, Bamboo made a good choice not taking any damage, though, and walking into Misery Meyer's second room. Meyer 2 has sword beams to make this a lot faster. Had one Popo move a little bit out of the way, though, so it didn't get the 1 cycle room.
Yeah, that's actually pretty annoying. You have 2 strats. This one is the second optimal strat. You have a way harder strat, but a bit more optimal because you kill this particular Popo a bit earlier in the strategy, but it makes the rest of the room, the whiz drop cycle, really tight, you know. And yeah, I don't often see a lot of people going for the optimal strat there. It's really difficult.
Well, we have Gem picking up their Ether as well to head to Misery Mire. In the meantime, both Mysticum and SuperPlayer taking care of the Flipper and Quake route, heading into Ice Palace. So getting a lot of dungeons out of the way. Not a lot of time wasted here in the overworld for many of our runners.
Yeah, that can be a painful overworld there because you have what we call the lottery. In the screen SuperPlayer is right now, there is a Popo which jumps on you, and I don't know, maybe it's only timing, I don't know, but sometimes, you know, this Ropa jumps over you and you cannot do anything and you take the hit, and it's 2 hearts of damage. So, and actually you want to enter Ice Palace with all your hearts because of the second move, Ice Palace. There is a strat which is way easier and faster with the sword beams.
Well, this bird's a little closer. Do you think we get the toss out of Gem? Well, Gem has these sword beams here. We're going to see if we can get a good Mire 2 out of Gem using the Fire Rod, and looks pretty good.
Yeah, really nice. As you saw, the Popo ran away to the right. You want to the best thing you want is like him to stay at the same position. But if he runs away to the bottom, you have to chase after him, and it's really painful to do because you have to go down the room, etc. But yeah, on the right is okay because you just need to go on the right side. Not such a time loss.
Here in the top left corner, though, Mysticum having a little bit of difficulty with that bomb jump. After taking a Fairy Revival, does get it. Something to note there, with 1 heart left, you can't actually do the bomb jump, even if you line it up perfect. That Fairy Revival will stop your momentum. So in that situation, it might have been worth it to just kind of jump off the ledge, but no big deal, did get through it.
This bomb jump is, in my opinion, the hardest bomb jump in the game. Usually, the hammer jump we saw in the Palace of Darkness, maybe it's more impressive to see, but to execute, yeah, the Ice Palace bomb jump, you don't have the post buffers. I think, I mean, it's a bit more difficult to get post buffers. Oh, and Bamboo taking a death
Oh no.
to Betrayals.
Well, so this is extra punishing. I mean, Misery Mire is a really tough place to take a death for
Yeah.
one. And then not only that, but going back to Vitreous is a long haul. You got to go through that whole basement section again. And not having the powder, you know, you're not going to have the sword beams for the second room either.
Exactly, and especially if you're not used to die in this dungeon, you kind of forget because there is a switch with pegs in the dungeon, and it's not in the same order than usually if you do the dungeon usually without dying. And if you're not used to die there, you can forget, hit the switch, and you don't want to hit the switch. And I think Bamboo is not used to die in this dungeon because he doesn't take the fastest way to the boss there. But yeah, it's
Yeah, he was going after the damage boost strats for Vitreous. This actually puts him almost in synchronicity with the gem, funny enough.
yeah.
You know, it's much more difficult to get through that damage boost. What we want to do is just take one damage per invincibility cycle in the poisonous goop. However, when we bump into one of those eyeballs, we take 4 hearts of damage and die very quickly.
Yeah, I didn't realize that there was they were back close to each other. But even if there are death pretty close race, pretty nice to see. Yeah, Gem. I don't know. Yeah, I was mistaken. It's the first time to go for Gem, so he was right to activate this switch actually.
Although you do have a good point about Bamboo, though, having to be mindful of, you know, whether or not switches have been pressed, because you can waste time in that cane dash room.
Yeah.
Though he does still have the same kind of issue. Down 4 hearts. This is kind of where you expect to be doing this dungeon normally, though. Appears to be taking it a little bit safer this time around.
Yeah, gets a 1 cycle.
1 cycle certainly a good boss fight against Vitreous. 2 cycle not bad. Not that bad either. But the important thing is just to survive it.
Exactly. And we saw Gem giving a spin to. Oh, he realized that's to Vitreous because usually you want to kill Vitreous with 8 arrows in the second phase of the fight. But if you spin him, you need only. Well, it depends on the hit number you get. You take. Sorry. I think it's 6. It needed only 6 arrows, and he realized that because he still managed to mirror there.
Oh no! SuperPlayer just took the worst possible death in Ice Palace.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Well, there is some silver lining here, though. With that half magic, he can dive right back into the dungeon, and it's pretty likely that he'll find a magic refill. Though he still has to use half of his magic bar to take on Cold Stairs, so still does have to pick up some magic. That's tough death, though.
Yeah, actually the Pengators drops are 100%, and they are in the magic drop price pack, so that should be okay. Yeah, that's where you see that half magic there is a really good safety, because if you die on Cold Stair, usually since you made your magic bar empty. You need to go out from the dungeon because you need magic from the first room of the dungeon and farm some of the boss blobs outside. But there is another threat actually where you can go to Swamp Palace with your life and empty magic, because you don't need any magic into Swamp Palace. Do Swamp Palace normally, and at the end of the dungeon, since you get a refill, you can go back to Ice Palace and try Coaster again.
Yep, so that would be the typical recovery strat, just take advantage of the boss refill. Interestingly enough, though, Mysticum seems to be the one runner so far with a route divergence. SuperPlayer may actually be joining him afterwards, but Mysticum went to Misery Mire before going to Swamp Palace. The reason why we do this is because we can go directly from Swamp Palace next to the Pyramid to get the gold sword and silver arrows. So very interesting route diversions. Looks like we're going to pick those up.
Yeah, actually, to unlock the Super Bomb, which allows to get the gold sword and the silver arrows, you need three conditions, three requirements, sorry. One of them is to finish Ice Palace, the second one is to finish Misery Mire, the dungeon, and the last one is to, it's a bit more, I don't know why exactly this one, but it's to reunite the two, I don't know the English term, the smith?
The blacksmiths?
Yeah, the blacksmith, thank you. Yeah, those are the three conditions to make the Super Bomb appears in the shop, which is at Link's house places in the Dark World.
Well, we're still looking at two different racers in different races, very close to each other. However, they are not racing each other, of course. We're just kind of watching that happen at the same time. Both of our runners want to see a fairy drop from this Pokey here. Looks like neither of them got it. Actually, I think Bamboo had the heart drop, so that should be the first in that prize pack. You could still get this fairy later in the dungeon.
Yeah, exactly. It should be in the next Pokey, if the Pokey doesn't try and drop something.
Or possibly even a mini Helmasaur later on, right before Laser Bridge. That would also be a good place to find it. Ooh, SuperPlayer getting really close. One thing, if you're watching this later on, SuperPlayer, is you might want to try using the Fire Rod in this situation just to keep him a little further from you, because that's very close. But hey, nice work finishing up, though. That was very close.
I'm a bit late from you, but carry to see this fight.
Oh, hey, there's Bamboo's fairy drop.
Yeah, that's actually nice to get this fairy drop there, especially if you get rabbit beamed, because you can, if you take damage while you're a rabbit, you're automatically transformed back into Link shape, and since he got the fairy just after, he's still full hearts, and actually being full hearts in Starter Rocks allows lots of useful and swag strats. I think you will see one of them in one of the next room coming. And yeah, also Gem getting the fairy and the magic drop. Really nice.
Yeah, that's about as good as you can expect. Mysticum is doing the damage strats against Vitreous. Now, one thing you might notice is that oh no. But he probably has a fairy though, right? All right. Sorry, I'm a couple seconds ahead of you, Link. I don't mean to steal all the play-by-play. But with the
No
eyeballs, when you destroy them, the faster, or the more of them you've destroyed, the faster the lightning attacks come out. So you kind of want to wrap things up pretty quickly, or else you're going to have a lot of attacks to dodge. Ooh, SuperPlayer, you're getting dead rocked.
Oh yeah, that's the worst thing, and especially at this position, because in other positions you can just scroll the screen and make them despawn, but on this particular position, because you cannot go far left from them. So yeah, this is definitely the worst place to get deadlocked.
Ooh, Bamboo doing some really nice cane strats in the room before
Nice.
Trinex. Oh, so this Trinex fight, this is going to be pretty interesting. Half of our runners will probably be doing this with Gold Sword, but one thing we're going to notice here is that our runners are going to switch to the other rod before they do the last hit on the first head, because while a boss is exploding, you can't actually access the menu.
And yeah, you saw Gem and Bamboo not doing the same strat actually. Bamboo was going for what we call the backdoor strat. Yeah, well, where you go behind the fire head, and I think they are closer to each other right now because Gem did a slightly slower strat there. Well, almost look at the scene, the synchronization between them. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, not too often you get to see it side by side like that. It's interesting to see them do two completely different things with the same equipment.
Yeah. And actually, you by doing the backdoor start, you save. If you do the fights well, you save one cycle over the safer strats Jim did.
And we're defining the cycles by the middle head extending to attack you, of course.
Yeah. Sorry if I'm explaining that. And yeah, so we were talking about the super bomb earlier. I don't even know if the English word is super bomb for this bomb actually.
I want to say it is. I think it is.
Okay, I know only the French word for that. So yeah, unlocking the gold sword and the silver arrows.
Yep, and we'll see the same thing on a super player. Has to go all the way through Misery Mire first, but
Yeah,
opting to go there before Swamp, so that should be the case here.
you might think that going into Mire before Swamp can be harder because you have one less heart, but usually people who go for this route usually take the powder or those safeties, especially the powder. So actually, Misery Mire with the powder is quite safe because in the room right before the boss, you have an anti-fairy like we saw earlier, and you can powder it. So definitely safe.
It's definitely one of the dungeons that feels the most difficult for having no powder if you're dropping powder. Like, you're going to feel the most impact there, and that's one of the easiest places to lose your run once you get rid of it. But when you have powder, I mean, you're really not worrying too much about anything at all.
And also, we saw different routes from Bamboo and Gem in the first room. Like Gem, wow, he has the spike just stops in Gem's screen. It's quite rare. I didn't see this often. I don't know what provokes it actually, but interesting. And yeah, Gem bonked a torch to get an extra key, and Bamboo didn't get it. If you see their key counter, Gem has an extra key from Bamboo, and yeah, actually, Bamboo will take a more dangerous keys right after in the dungeon. It saves, I think, like 1 second over Gem's strat.
We did also get to see a really nice bonk there against the wall to skip a warp tile or two. Bamboo actually ran right into it, so that puts a couple of extra seconds in Gem's favor.
Sometimes you want to go into this warp because there is a 5 arrows pot right into this warp, and also yeah, this spot bow. And you saw Bamboo there throwing a bomb, and the bomb going right into the wall. That sometimes that happened. It's a glitch where if you throw a bomb and then pick up the pot right after, the bomb, I don't know, the collision between the bomb and the wall is ignored by the game, and then I don't know, the bomb goes into the wall and doesn't explode the floor, so that's annoying.
Oh, we got to see a really nice bonk also for very similar reasons as the last one you mentioned by SuperPlayer there, just to watch out for that fire bar. Bonking against the wall made it completely miss, which was pretty nicely done. I've only seen that once elsewhere in this tournament, but definitely a good backup.
I think it was SuperPlayer who did this. I saw a clip from him doing this in a previous run actually.
Yeah, I want to say it was something I commentated, so I was like, wait a second, this seems very familiar.
That's like a signature strat.
Well, that's how you know you made it in the NMG community. Someone's named after you.
Yeah.
In the meantime, though, Gem's going to go through the Ganon Ball Z room, opting to stutter step all the way through it. Safe way to go. We're not walking with any safeties in Ganon's tower, and this gauntlet is pretty dangerous, so it makes sense to avoid all possible damage. BambooShadow, same story.
Yeah, both runners there didn't lose any hearts until there, except the 3 you mandatory lose. That's pretty impressive. Seems like a good gauntlet so far from for Gem.
Yep, our runners only have a couple of hearts that they can pick up all the way from here till Ganon without any safeties, so it's very imperative that our runner stay as safe as possible through this first and second gauntlet. Ooh, that Lamb Mollis fight from Gem, though. Very nice one cycle.
What's Gem's BB?
Give me 1 second, I actually have that. Well, so the most recent PB reported on speedrun.com/ALTTP, which is the most recent, what we basically walked into the tournament with, Gem has a 129.09.
Okay.
BambooShadow has a 128.34. SuperPlayer, unless you've had a better time since then, would be a 150.11, and Mysticum 146.06.
Yeah, that explains why the races, well, the diagonal races are close to each other.
You know, interesting thing about these tournament records so far for these runners, well, Mysticum's coming in with a 0-2, so probably looking for a good PB here, but Gem is 1-1, so this is basically a race for tournament life. Same story with BambooShadow, 1-1. SuperPlayer 0-2, kind of in my camp.
A SuperPlayer beating Vitreus, so he should go for the gold arrow and the gold sword and silver arrow, right? And yeah.
Ooh, Gem getting really close to falling to Moldorm too.
Wow. And take a look at the bamboo screen. He's doing another strat here to get an extra key he didn't get in one of the first rooms in the dungeon. Wow, pretty close race. Depending on the cycles on the Alganim 2 and the warps on Ganon, it could be really, really close.
Well, in the meantime, Mysticum's going to finish off Argus. SuperPlayer's heading to finish off, well, start Swamp House. Gem's going to be the first into the Aghanim 2 fight, so this is a refight of Aghanim from before. We have a couple of after images, but Gem getting a really nice, I think that was a 2-cycle.
Whoa, yeah, that was a 2-cycle. Impressive.
That's a double triple, folks. That is the hardest thing you could possibly do. Bamboo with a triple, too. Double triples. Wow. Oh my god.
GG, guys. That was sick.
Absolute madman.
Sick race.
Well, if you thought you saw it all, folks. Alright, well, so after a moment of recovering ourselves here, let's talk a little bit about the Ganon fight. So, Gem and Bamboo have tempered swords, so they're going to need 12 slashes worth of damage to advance the first and second phase each. The best way to do it, though, is to get 1 cycle each. Gem's doing the interesting poke dash strat in the center of the fire bat ring, and does pull off the 1-1.
Yeah, that's really nice. Not the easiest strat going into this circle of bats. Yeah, Bamboo choosing another strat, which is a bit safer, I guess.
Yeah, and Ganon's warp positions are random, so it's a little bit hard to predict what you're going to get out of it. But Gem very quickly finishing up phase 3, minimal warps. That was really nice.
Wow.
And then in phase 4, all we got to do is 12 spin slashes. There's a small window before Ganon warps that we can do that spin slash. Alternatively, we would just slash him and then use silver arrows, but Gem and BambooShadow have skipped that. Ooh, BambooShadow missing the torch glitch. So if you light that left torch before the right torch goes out, the right one just stays lit. Without having that, he's going to have to do... Oh, wow, he fell off. I think he may have been worried about his fight without it.
Yeah, because if you fail the torch glitch, you can run out of magic, and it can be... Yeah, if you run out of magic towards the end of the fight, I think it was decision to try again. While Jen finished the Ganon's fight.
Well, that was an incredible race for Gem. I mean, Gem getting to 131.01 is very great time for a race setting. Should also be a pretty good timing for seeding as well. A lot of runners out there who have advanced will probably be advancing at 135 or below for their average race time. So this is going to be really great for, well, for one, the group, of course, and, you know, the seeding for the bracket itself. GG to Gem, though. We'll see if we can get Gem in for an interview.
So yeah, Mysticum entering Turtle's Rock, and since he has the gold swords, you will be able to see little different strats there, especially on the boss on Trinix, who will die way faster than what you saw with the Temper Sword.
And not only is Trinex and Turtle Rock in general much easier to deal with, Ganon's Tower is a much safer experience with the Gold Sword and Silver Arrows. You may see two of our runners potentially pick up Red Mail as well, which will help a lot with the Ganon fight.
Yeah, it reduces the damages. I think it's from 4 to 2 hearts or something like that. Really nice safety. And taking the Red Mail. And we saw Mysticum too, because in the previous, well, in BambooShadows and the Gem runs, we could see them going down into the roller room. But Mysticum preferred to mirror out instead of taking the 3 hearts of damage from the rollers. A really wise decision too.
Well, it looks like BambooShadow has finished up his Ganon fight as well. We'll still pull him in for an interview, but 133.13 on his timer looks like a pretty nice score.
Yeah, pretty nice. GG.
As far as the actual speed racing TV times for both of our finishers, though, Gem finished with a 131.02 and BambooShadow with a 133.15. Looks like we will be joined by Gem for an interview in just a moment.
Mysticum might have not thought about this possibility, but sometimes some people, I like to think about ACM, which is one of the top runners of the game. They choose the equip, the fire rod there, and shoot the pokies right there. The Japanese name of those pokies is Hokoboku. We use poki because it's common. It comes from Mario, etc. So everyone knows pokies. But yeah, those enemies, anyway, those enemies can be one-shot with the fire rod. So pretty nice strat there. because you can get them with. And looks like we were joined by. I couldn't see on Discord, but
Looks like Jem has joined the Discord. So, and the interview, Jem, congratulations, GG on that race.
Thanks.
Also, 131, and this brings you up to 2-1. So, I believe this is going to put you in a good place for your group. Am I right?
Yeah, I think I advanced to brackets now, which is pretty great. Pretty happy about that.
Yeah, by the looks of things, you got 3-0 with Greffrey in your group. In the name of DT with 1 and 2, and Mysticum will be at 0 and 3. So yeah, you're absolutely going to advance with this. Now, is this your fastest time of the tournament so far?
No, I had a 1:29:40 something, I think, against DT. So yeah.
That's going to help out a lot.
Yeah, it should.
That should put you in a good position into the brackets phase of the tournament.
Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with the times other people posted, but I think it's not too bad.
So I got a little bit behind with keeping track of everybody in this race because it was a race full of deaths. I'm trying to remember, did you have a death in this run?
Yeah, I died to Argus.
Yeah, that was the weird one.
Yeah, I know. Felt pretty bad about that.
I don't know if you watched, if you had the stream on the side. You were really close to Bamboo actually during almost all the race.
Yeah, and then with Argus I kind of threw it, but I think he died on Vitreous, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it put you close again actually.
He also opted
right
to
at the
fall
beginning.
again and because he missed Torch Glitch.
Yeah.
Oh, that hurts.
You know, though, your opponent Mysticum is doing pretty well, though. You know, compared to personal best, I believe it's mid 140s. Current, 146 is his current best. So with 137 going into Trinex, that's not bad.
Oh, nice, yeah. Can
You've
probably
done
be-
really well so far, though, in this tournament. I mean, 2-1 is definitely a strong, commanding position to be in, compared to some people who will probably get through on tiebreak in that situation.
Yeah, pretty happy I don't have to do a tiebreaker.
Well, so this would be 3 matches total for you. Your group phase is done. So you've got a little bit of time before the brackets are going to start. How do you think you're going to spend your time practicing?
Well, I hope I can practice for once. Been kind of lazy with that lately. I really should, especially now that brackets are coming up.
Well, I'll tell you, a low 130 time and even sub 130, I mean, that's definitely going to carry you far into this tournament. There's only so many people with that kind of, time who have made it even into the tournament whatsoever.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, other than the one death, I mean, are there any things in this run that you felt really strong about?
Yeah, my G tower was pretty great. I got a gold split by 8 seconds, I think. I'm pretty
That's
happy
a pretty
about
nice
that.
gold. And plus the double triple in Aga too.
Oh yeah.
That was really nice. But I think my PB actually had that as well, so...
That's a tough
that
split to
wasn't
run
in the
against.
times, right? Yeah.
Well, we were really hype on our side because, I mean, this is a fantastic race to watch anyway, but both you and Bamboo pulled that off at the same time. It was pretty crazy.
Oh, you also got a triple?
Yeah, double triple at the same time.
Wow, that's amazing.
Looks like SuperPlayer got dead rocks again. There, but yeah, there he can actually despawn the dead rocks by going far left.
Also, by the looks of things, Mysticum will have a little bit of trouble getting a PB out of this run. I mean, it would have to be a pretty exceptional Ganon's Tower to be done with Ganon in 7 minutes, or in 6 minutes. But SuperPlayer being about 10 minutes away from PB, no, it's looking pretty rough as well to get the PB. So we're not going to get any PB runs, I don't think, out of this race, but everybody should be putting up a pretty good time overall compared to their personal best, so it's definitely impressive to watch.
Mysticum, they are going for an interesting strat because you'll see most of runners go for throwing their boomerang to the switch, but sometimes, yeah, throwing the boomerang can be a bit tight, and there with the Ken of Sumaria, you are sure to hit the switch correctly.
Oh, well, speaking of that switch room, I don't know if you guys noticed, but for some reason the spike in the switch room didn't move for me.
I was surprised to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised as well.
I don't know what caused that though, but yeah, that was pretty fun to see.
Yeah, it was really weird because usually I wait for the spike before I shoot the hookshot.
I
this
waited
time
a bit longer.
Yeah, it just didn't appear.
Well, speaking of differences, because some things worked, some things didn't. With at the same time, we got to see a lot of side by side with you and Bamboo, and we actually got to see like different Vitreous, or not different Vitreous strats. We got to see different Trinex strats. One of you went backdoor, one of you didn't, and a number of other small things that were just barely different. So it was an educational thing to watch.
Yeah, that backdoor Trinex strat. For some reason, I just can't do that at all. I've practiced it a bunch of times, but it just doesn't work for me. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's quite a tight strat to get actually.
So it looks like I made a wrong prediction. I thought Mysticum was going to grab the red mill, instead opting to head straight up to the top of the tower. Being a 20-second time difference in picking it up versus not picking it up, if you're going to pick up other safeties, I'd recommend picking it up. But probably feels pretty confident in the Ganon and Gauntlet, so more power to you.
Yeah. Also, there is a room where you can find fairies right before Gauntlet. So yeah, he has bombs, so maybe he will go for this. I don't know. But...
Yeah, the biggest reason you see people pick up red mail is just to make sure they don't die to Ganon. I mean, obviously the Gauntlet itself is, of course, dangerous, but not having to worry as much about Ganon hugs is definitely a great peace of mind.
Yeah. With the red mail, Ganon hugs is 8 hearts, so that's really painful.
Hey, speaking of using fire rods and Hokoboku, SuperPlayer, they're putting that to great use.
Oh yeah. Didn't he shoot both of them with the same fire rod?
Gotta love the conservation, even though he has half magic. That's clearly a green guy.
And we also saw Mysticum falling into the pit in the Cannonball Z room, because if you fall into the pit there, you have iframes, which allows you to dash through the whole room. So yeah, sometimes you prefer to do that instead of trying to dodge every bullet which go towards you.
Well, SuperPlayer making his way to the laser bridge skip. In the meantime, Mysticum will be finishing up the first half of the Gauntlet, or Gauntlet 1 as we like to call it, which concludes with yet another boss refight, Land Molus 2. Having those silver arrows means that we can do this in an extremely fast one-cycle fight, if he knows the timing.
Also, he did the gauntlets without taking a heart of damage, only on the last room. That was pretty impressive to see, actually. And yeah, we could see that getting those sword beams for gauntlet is pretty useful.
Yeah, having the ability to do relatively low lag attacks from across the room. I mean, if we use those silver arrows, it's very slow.
Yeah.
With that lag, and then any other item is considerably much slower. So gold sword damage plus, having the sword beams for a little bit of utility, definitely a great asset here.
Yeah.
Speaking of full health, SuperPlayer has recharged health and magic going into Trinex, so should have absolutely no troubles in this fight. Plenty of spare shots to work with.
All right. Thanks for the interview and thanks for commentating. I'm gonna peace out now.
Thanks for the great race. Appreciate you stopping by for the interview.
Yeah.
Congratulations again.
Thanks. So yeah, thank you and bye.
Goodbye.
Well, it'll be exciting to see that run through the tournament. I think the 131 today was definitely a great show.
Yeah.
Well, that Trinex fight was fast. Gold Sword really does help out a lot, folks. So if you're feeling rough about your end game, absolutely go with the Gold Sword and Silvers until you're practiced enough on Ganon and Ganon's Tower to be able to drop it completely. Well, with that, we're going to have our third attempt at Aghanim 2 as soon as Mysticum gets through this conveyor room, which is very frustrating. Mini Helmasaur there gives people a lot of trouble, but has no major issues. That was good.
Actually, if you miss this conveyor room, you can use the Ether medallion to freeze them all and to pull through.
Yeah, usually a small-time investment with the Ether Medallion is going to save you a lot of time bouncing around and a lot of damage. And since we don't have a heal before Ganon, that's very important.
Yeah. Also going for spin struts there. That's actually a pretty nice strat because depending on the positions of Aghanim, you can, like we saw right there, you can get 2, even sometimes 3 hits in one attack. Of course, a more precise attacking way is to slash, to position yourself and slash the energy balls, but way harder to do so.
But you have a really good point, though, because you can get more slashes in and potentially readjust your angle. Although, exactly like you mentioned, it's very difficult to do that reliably. So it's a fight to practice if you're going to try and change that up. Well, as SuperPlayer02 walks into Ganon's Tower, we have Mysticum walking into the Ganon fight with a gold sword so much easier than it would be with Tempered. We're only going to need 6 slashes to do the same amount of damage and advance each phase. Making great use of the hook shot to avoid these fire bats.
Also, in the last phase, I think you need only... Oh, it's really different because I was going to say you need only 6 slashes, but since you have the silver arrows, you need only 4 silver arrows to kill Ganon in the last phase. But that's a good thing because torch glitch also is not such a thing actually in the last phase when you have silver arrows.
Yep, you'll see a lot of runners just try to do it anyway, just in case. But, I mean, like Mysticum just did there, but, it's not really that important. You can easily use the Fire Rod, even without half magic, to relight those torches, since you only need 4 arrows total. Quick correction though. Actually, you were talking about sword spins in phase 4. If we were doing gold sword with no silver arrows, you'd actually need 12 because a tempered spin is the same as a gold sword anyway.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, thanks for correcting me.
Well, I had somebody correct me earlier on it. I'm like, wait a second, that's not right. But then I remembered that damage class is weird. The game's weird, man. That's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, that's true. I experimented that. If you have the gold sword, spins and slashes I think it's the same damage you inflict, and with master sword or temper sword, it's not the same. Like I don't know why it's on one sword it's different and it's the same for another. So yeah, looks like Mysticum has finished in 150 and 50 minutes and 38 seconds. GG to him. I don't know about his speedracing.tv time though.
Yeah, Mysticum, if you're out there listening to us, please hit the .done. I will attempt to see if we can get him up for an interview, though.
Yeah. SuperPlayer got the red mail, as we were surprised to see Mysticum not getting it, but yeah, it all went smoothly for him. But red mail is definitely a good safety. Actually, it's not like if people know Zelda 1, blue mail and red mail respectively half the damage you get from enemies, but it's not the case. It's way more complicated in ALTTP because every enemy belongs to some kind of, I don't know, pack, if you can say that, damage pack, and yeah, each damage pack, it's difficult to explain, but the damage you receive when you get hit by something depends on your mail and the damage pack, but it's not sometimes it's a half of the damage you get with a weaker mail. Sorry, my explanation is a bit confused there. My English is not that good too, but yeah, it's like you just said a lot. This game is just weird, and yeah, the damage you get is are weird. It's like the movement, a general movement. Why, for instance, when you move, you move to with a cycle of 2 pixel, 1 pixel, 2 pixel per frame, etc. It's just weird, but yeah, you know, the game feels more smooth, in my opinion.
That makes sense. Also, I got an update from Mysticum. Doesn't have a mic set up, so we're probably not going to get an interview out of Mysticum. But
Okay.
in the meantime, folks, please cheer on SuperPlayer as he makes his ascent up Ganon's tower. Soon to be finishing up Ganon. Well, so this is an interesting quad race today, though. I mean, we have 2 of our runners, one in each race, actually, set to advance because of this. So BambooShadow makes it into brackets. Gem makes it into brackets. Both Mysticum and SuperPlayer are going to go to 0-3, joining me in the brackets, watching. But it will be a lot of fun to see more Link to the Past, No Major Glitches. Just want to shout out to the community. You guys have been very accepting of new runners. So if any of you out there are considering picking up the speed run, by all means, you got fantastic people surrounding you everywhere, encouraging you from around the world to continue getting faster.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I like in this tournament. Like this race, look, you have 2 German people, 1 Swedish people, 2 French people, including me commentating, and where are you from, Yuda? I think
the East Coast of the United States. So I feel a little out of the ordinary, but you know what? Honestly, I'm just floored that there's people all around the world who love this game as much as I do.
Oh, you know. But yeah, that's really nice to have people all around the world. And I think
not only that, but randomizer too. There's a lot of people into that as well.
I think you're more than 500 players in this tournament.
Yeah, that tournament has 512 entrants into their Swiss round.
That's just crazy.
Well, it's 7 weeks of it, so they're in week 2 right now. I had lost both my first 2 matches, but after 3, it will be pretty much out skis at that point. So there's a lot of folks. They're struggling just to keep up with the restreams though, because it's literally that many people, 250 plus matches a week. It's insane.
Yeah. That's a rhythm. And yeah, for me, I was thinking that this NMG tournament was one of the biggest we've done so far, with a 128. And yeah, you're telling me that you're 512. That's
Well, that's an interesting point to bring up, though, because the NMG tournament in 2016 was literally half as many entrants as this one, and this NMG tournament actually had a wait list. So, you know, I was very privileged to be able to get a chance at the end of the waitlist phase to actually get into the tournament. Folks, you know, I mean, there's going to be a lot more Link to the Past runners for a very long time, apparently. The community continues to grow, so by all means, throw your hat into the ring. You know, join us. We have cookies. Join the dark side. But more importantly, get on that leaderboard. Put a run in. You don't have to be, you know, an hour 30 to be considered, you know, runner of this game.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. And yeah, because I've been running the game since a long time right now, and before, some years ago, like getting a 129 was pretty much rare, and that was like a great gauntlet. And right now I see so many people getting this time, like if it was a normal, not a huge wall like it used to be. And also, back in those times, we have only, I don't know, 2 players who got the 124, and right now we have, I think it's at least 9 or 10 players who got this time, so that's amazing. And also, the randomizer allowed to a lot of people to join the ALTTP, the vanilla game community, and that's really good, really a lively place to when you see the Discord server. It's really nice to interact with people.
And that's also something worth noting. While this tournament, you know, the NMG tournament may be a couple hundred people dang near it, there are thousands more people in these Discord servers than we've seen in years past. And the randomizer Discord is no different. I literally see 2,500 people online at any given time of the day. So, you know, stay tuned, folks. Get involved. This is definitely a community that you want to be a part of.
Yeah.
As I understand it, I believe we're going to have a randomizer race coming up next on Speed Gaming. Welcome to everybody who is tuning in for that. We're finishing up a No Major Glitches tournament race right now. 2 races actually simultaneously. SuperPlayer accidentally messed up his timer before, but is looking at just around a 2-hour run right now. If you're a newer runner to this game, though, you may end up being kind of in the same position with equipment that SuperPlayer would be in when you get to the Ganon fight, with gold sword and silver arrows. You take a little bit of a different dungeon path, or an order, I guess, to get there. Oh, SuperPlayer taking a death. That's rough. But what we're going to want to do in this fight, normally you'd have to do 12 sword slashes with the tempered sword. With a gold sword, you only have to do 6. And with the red mail that we can pick up that only costs about 20 seconds in Ganon's Tower, you are considerably safer from these attacks. If he had more trouble with the fight, he would be able to pick up a fairy from the tree at just below the pyramid. But it looks like we're going to get to phase 3, no problems here. All right, everybody, send me your energy. And pray for minimal warps. So for those of you in the randomizer community who aren't used to seeing the vanilla Ganon fight, Ganon in this phase and in phase 3 can warp pretty much as much as you'd like to. Or, I'm sorry, this phase and Well, this is probably the most RNG part of the fight. He'll warp around, and he has a 50-50 chance of doing it. But as we move into phase 4, we kind of want to get a free sword spin. We have the silver arrows, though, so the torch glitch here is not nearly as important. We're just going to need to get 4 hits just like you're used to seeing.
Yes, so sorry, just I just realized that all along the commentary, my push-to-talk song was activated, and maybe you heard it. I just realized that, so yeah, sorry for the inconvenience.
It wasn't
just
too noticeable.
Turned it off.
So we had a really weird arrow going north, and that actually forced him to wait to shoot his next arrow. So he's going to get an extra cycle here, but should be able to finish up no problems. Ooh, getting kind of close here. Only 2 hearts left. Can't take any damage. Just needs that 1 arrow, so he's just got to time it right to not have a fire bat spawn. And that will do it.
Nice shot.
All right, taking a quick look at the speed gaming schedule, it does look like we are running into the next match. So we will probably not be able to do an interview for SuperPlayer. Apologies for that, but I also want to make sure that, we're not holding up everybody else who set aside their time to make that happen. So with that, I just want to say thanks to everybody involved with this broadcast. Thank you for joining me on the comms link, Orange. Thank you, Fiesel,
Thank you.
and also Speed Gaming. And thank you to the audience for tuning in for us. With that, I've been Uday Monistic, and I'm joined by... Link Orange. And
Sorry.
sorry, that pause doesn't always necessarily pan out.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks to you two for leading up this commentary. Given that I'm not that fluent in English, so yeah, I appreciate that. And thanks everybody for those good races and for watching until there.
And stay tuned to this tournament, folks. It's only starting to heat up. We're about to move into brackets starting the beginning of next month. And watch out for the remaining 20 or so matches we have left in groups. Thanks, folks, and see you next mission.
Goodbye.